What is the measurement of a bald spot? Because because the reason we're asking this question is because we spoke about the pagans that would shave their heads as part of the mourning period process for their loved ones, right? So we want to know what exactly is the shiur, the measurement of that. Left-hand column. Kama shiur karcha. What is the size of bald spot for which you get lashes if somebody has removed hair in grief over a loved one? That's the question.
That's not purposely or
no, intentionally, as part of a mourning ritual, part of a mourning ritual. Rav Huna says, and in order, if the skin of his head appears, that's considered the karcha, the bald spot. Right. If you look at the footnote number 8, Ritva cites. Wait, before we get there, Ritva cites 2 interpretations of this opinion. The first one says those who explain it stringently as teaching that there is a liability even when the exposed flesh is evident only upon close inspection. That's what it means. Only if you can see it through close. Only if you could. Even when you can see it only through close inspection, is that a problem? That's still considered thinning out or cutting out hair off your flesh, and therefore it's a problem. And B, those who explain it leniently as teaching that there is liability only when the exposed flesh can be seen from afar with a cursory glance. So 2 different interpretations of this line of the Gemara. When we speak about the skin of the hair being exposed, does that mean that you have to see it close up with magnifying glass so you can see the skin in the head? Is that the issue? Or the issue, no, face value. Whatever you see on face value, that's how you define whether it's bald or not bald. Okay. Anyway, so that's the first point of Rav Huna is that you see the hair. You see the skin. That's the first definition of a bald spot. Any amount of skin.
Does it actually apply to a woman?
No, because the prohibition, I think, was only on men that they can't shave their heads in memory of loved ones. Nobody said the women can't do it.
Could you see women too?
No, it could be a single lady, in theory. Could be a single lady in theory.
So that they're allowed to shave their head?
In memory of those who passed. Interesting question.
this is only after 30 days.
Now we're saying that the pagans had a custom that they would cut their hair in memory of loved ones. Some anytime, straight away.
You can't cut your head in 30 days.
No, that's pagan. Not Jews.
I paid it.
He hasn't been here for 3 years.
He's catching up. He on the beaches of Tel Aviv, ironically. Right? On the beaches of Tel Aviv.
Separate term.
Okay, let's go on. So the first thing is that you expose skin of the head. Rabbi Yochanan Omer Mishum Rabbi Elazar Benoi. Rabbi Yochanan Omer Mishum Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yochanan says in the name of Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, Kigris. The size is the size of a beam. So now you got to make the hole or the bald spot a little bigger in order to transgress. Anything less than that is not really considered a bald spot. And he brings the Tanoim, meaning the teachers of the Mishnah, are called Tanoim. He brings them as a proof. Ketanoi, like the dispute between the Tanoim. What did the Tanoim say? What was that? What precedent are we quoting here? It said, Kama shiur karcha. What is the measure of a bald spot for which you're liable? Malchus, lashes. First answer is kigris, like the size of a bean, like we said. Acherim say so that the skin of his head can appear. Okay, so the question is normally we don't like. No. Now, normally we don't like when achroinim, or shall I say amoraim. No. Repeat that which the Mishnah sages said. Tanoim. You don't need the Gemara sages to repeat themselves if the same din has already been said earlier on. That's why I'm just intrigued by this paragraph, which actually is in brackets. So there seems to be a discussion whether or not to even read these brackets. And the reason why I ask is because we don't normally have Amoraim sages who are agreeing to or repeating that which the Tanoim said. Seems a little off. But anyway, okay, it's not the end of the world. On side. Now, here comes the third opinion. Rav Yehuda bar Chaviva says, Pligi bot losa Tanoim. Actually, there's a third argument here in the definition of a bald spot. Chadoimer kigris, as we said. One says the size of a bean. Chadoimer kadesh yirayim miroshay. And the other one says it's enough that the head should be exposed. Chadoimer kishtei saros. And now we have another one who says you need the size of 2 hairs. So if it's the size of 2 hairs, not just plucking out 1 hair. Because I think 1 hair can be assumed as a mistake. Yeah, so 1 hair is a pin. You're going to have 2 hairs. That's the beginning of intentional removal of hair. If it's 1,
next to each other.
I think next to each other in one space. The bald spot, the one bald spot, 2 hairs. So if it's 1, you can just say it's a mistake or unintentional or whatever. If it's 2 in the same spot, then you know there's a problem. Now, the ikar, the mapik shtei sa'aros. There are those who quote that last statement. They quote that last opinion of the third Tana, but they change it from, instead of saying 2 hairs, uma'ayil b'ka'adosha, they change it to 2 lentils. And a lentil is much bigger than 2 hairs. If you look at the footnote, he says 1 lentil equals 4 hairs. 1 bean equals 9 lentils. Which one are you? Wait, 1 lentil equals 4 hairs. That makes sense. A lentil is big. 1 bean equals 9 lentils. I don't know how big the lentils. The lentils are the small brown things. Yeah, the small brown things. Okay. So when you look at hairs are extremely thin. So you need 4 lentils to fill the gap of the hairs. Well, like that.
So it means 36 hairs.
Exactly. So how many hairs are in the soup?
With 76 kinds of sugar beans.
36 hairs per bean. Yeah.
Yeah, 9 hairs equals 1.
Four times.
That's 4 lentils equals 9 beans equals
All
1.
beans, stupid.
Okay, that's number 10. V'simonach. At the end of that paragraph, v'simonach. And if you want to know a mnemonic, if you want to know a sign of how to remember these different opinions, I'll give you a clue. And he gives like 1 line as a clue to how to remember the different opinions on this topic. He says, Baheres, which is a wound, Kigris, size of a sin of a bean, or Michya, and a healthy spot, Ka'adasha is the size of a lentil. So he says this is a well-known quote from the Mishnah in the Goyim. Just as the Mishnah mentions both bean and lentil, so too the amended version of the Tanaic dispute mentions both bean and lentil. The mnemonic thus indicates that in the amended version, lentil replaces 2 hairs and does not replace bean. Interesting. What does it say in the footnote 11? They were used for measurements, yeah. I'll tell you the lesson we learned. Just like in the Gemara, a bean and a lentil was not seen to be a personal food, but rather we saw a lentil and a bean to be a sign of measurement. The message we learn, Raymond, from you is that everything we deal with today should be seen the same. serves a mundane purpose, but also serves a holy purpose. And everything has its purpose, just like we see with the bean and with the hair and with the lentil. Just a thought.
If somebody puts their head in face up, that's not counted because you also.
But this is just to get this is cutting your head. This is pulling because it's
Yeah.
So it's actually pulling it from the root.
Correct. I don't know what device you're using because you can use different devices.
It's in Lamentation. So if you
Holy.
take a razor that you shave with, and you're doing it on your head, is that part of this bald spot, even if it's short?
Yeah,
So
you can see the skin of the
you're
head.
not shave too close
To your skin. Say, could you do it?
on your head? What's different?
I think the point is if you leave all the rest of the hair longish,
Yeah,
and in that spot you show. Yeah, I understand. Right.
We did it. They said it had to be a certain thing, and if you can see the scalp, the skin of the head,
Yes.
then it's regarded as a bald spot.
The moral of the school is you didn't put moral, you could put it.
Yeah,
You can pull your hair out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you saying that the hair is not going to go back?
The bald spot.
Yeah.
Go back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does eventually. It always goes back, but if you put it up, it'll take longer.
Look at your hair.
Yeah.
You're getting thinner on top, it's not growing in that place.
That's all. Then
You're not pulling it out. It's natural.
Yeah.
Let's go. Where are we? Bottom line. The Gemara continues discussing the minimum size of a bald spot. Tana, we learn, someone who unintentionally, it's a mistake, takes off, piazug means scissors, he takes off a small amount using these scissors tipful of hair on Shabbos. So this, right. Unless
That's what it was. Only if you pull it out because you are mourning. You're in mourning.
yes.
pull it out and cut it off.
No, so here now, you'll see now the discussion about Shabbos that we just going on to now is it's not talking about the paganism of that aspect. This is a new problem of shaving, or a new problem of what is this? Of removing hair. So now the question is, you can't remove hair on Shabbos because it's called shearing.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can't. So let me just say something about the scissors. The reason why you need more than just scissors, we need a prohibition called shearing, for example, is because using scissors on Shabbos is the rabbinical prohibition of muktzah, not the biblical prohibition of a malacha of work. So today we don't touch scissors. Why? Because the rabbi said don't touch scissors, muktzah. But then what's the malacha? What? Because malacha is more severe. Malacha is original laws of Shabbos, 39 laws. So what have you transgressed when you use those scissors? So it's now about shearing. Right, that's the issue. So now the question I'm about to ask, which is a little bit totally different to topic that we learned previously. Previously, we're talking about paganism, right? Shearing your head for the sake of idol worship. Okay, let's put that aside now. Now we're talking about shearing your head for the sake of keeping Shabbos, or for the sake of desecrating Shabbos. That's the question. Okay, so if a person uses a scissors to remove hair, chayev, you're liable for a sin offering. Why? If you look at the page. Second 20b. Yeah, 20b2. Because you're performing the labor of shearing. If you look at number 13, a scissors tipful is a minimum amount of shearing that is considered significant. While shearing less hair is likewise forbidden, but is not published or subject to a chatas offering, is not punished or subject to a chatas, then the sin offering. Therefore. Okay. So now the Gemara says the kama meloi piazog. And how many hairs do we talk about in the scissors tipful?
Just put the scissors in there.
That's right. Join it at the top.
Why not two?
How many hairs are included in the? Because we said a person who takes the tipful on Shabbos. So we said, what happens if you took it and it wasn't intentional? Or what's considered intentional? Right. So I'm going to review this as Stein, 2 hairs.
You go back to
Makkos.
talking about time between.
Yeah.
So
Time in between.
1 hair, wait 10 seconds,
Yeah,
1 hair,
yeah.
and you go all the way until you got 9 hair.
Yeah, because you haven't transgressed it, because you haven't got the minimum 2 hairs.
Oh,
That's correct.
once.
That's right. That's correct. So if you hold that, because that's so clear. If you hold, thank you. If you hold, okay, let's go on. Let's go on. Yeah, Zach, send love.
What is that in the shoe? I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, Vatanya. Now we're gonna ask a question. Here comes the problem.
Sorry.
No problem. Send him regards when you speak to him. Vatanya, and we taught the following: the Karcha Stein, that when he makes a bald spot, the minimum amount is 2 hairs. Okay. In other words, where does it speak about this paragraph? This paragraph was brought in the same brisa as Shabbos. The Shabbos that spoke about the scissors tipful, the tipful of the scissors. So if the brisa is consisting of two paragraphs, one paragraph talks about the Shabbos prohibition of the tipful. Okay, you don't have. By the way, we don't know really how many hairs that consists of. We're trying to figure out how many hairs are in a tipful of scissors coming off your head each time. That's our question. How many hairs? But what he's saying here is that if you look at the wording of the brisa, the wording is, and for bald spots in bereavement of loved ones, it's 2 hairs. What does that imply? That when we discussed the scissors a moment earlier, it's not necessarily 2 hairs. Let's give an example. Okay? So we say he had a haircut. You don't know how much they cut off. But his brother who had a haircut, they cut off everything. Or they did a short haircut. What does it show you? It shows you that the first one who had the haircut didn't necessarily have a short haircut, because the fact you emphasize the second one means that it was unique to the second one to have the short haircut. That's what we're saying over here. The beginning case was about Shabbos, that you cut it with scissors, and as a result of cutting it with scissors, you detached hair. You don't know how many hairs that consists of. You don't know what the minimum was. All you know is that the next paragraph says, and by the way, for paganism, where they would remove bald spots, you know how many hairs that consists of? 2 hairs. The fact that you announced that with such excitement shows you that the original statement of the scissors tip wasn't actually 2 hairs. Because if it was 2 hairs, you would say, and similarly, this case is also 2 hairs. So the wording is actually unclear.
You're going to see a bald spot. It's 2 hairs.
And contradictory. No, but if they were, I'll tell you how you would know. If 2 witnesses, because it goes almost, and warned you, and you answered back, I'm doing it nonetheless, and they saw you pull out the hairs or cut down the hairs, that's what it means. Doesn't mean So yeah.
No witnesses.
No?
Witnesses.
Then you want to.
Sorry, not.
It's not a bald spot. Then you would know.
It's going to be intentional because I mean you can laugh your head through your head.
Exactly. And not only intentional, but a few things here. Number one is, let's talk about the deceased for a second. Is your kavana is that when I take out those hairs, I'm doing it in mourning for the one who passed away. Not when you just streak your hands through your head and hair comes out. Right. Then the next thing is, because we're discussing Shabbos now, the hairs that come out shearing. So there, it's more problematic. And there's laws of Shabbos which are quite complicated. But for example, the Mishagoy will go into their swimming pools to mikvah on a Shabbos morning. Present company excluded here. Is drying hair on Shabbos is problematic. Pet it. Because if you dry your hair, you're going to remove the hairs as a result, and that's considered shearing.
It's like combing your ear, brushing your ear.
So brushing hair is the same. What you try and do with brushing is you try and use a wider. What do you call those things? What do you call those things? Bristles. If and in the former communities, they actually sell like Shabbos brushes, which are wider bristles, and the hair is not getting caught in the movement of the brush. So the risk, yeah, sure. So the risk.
Have you got a Shabbos brush?
I don't have a Shabbos brush, no.
I got to go in and put your hand.
What do you mean put your? Oh, yeah. You hold it like that. But what makes that more of a shop? What makes that more Shabbos?
Wow.
I don't know. No, the bristles have to be wide.
Yeah, the bristles are
I don't know.
Something
I
usually
don't know.
still for horses. You put your hand.
Yeah. Exactly. So I don't know. But
You stand in the plants when you get out.
no, he says he's on the bricks, right?
I'm so pain.
You can't stand on the grass.
That's the issue because he's growing the bricks.
Anyway, too cold to go today.
And his friends is a rabbi's son. Sean mentioned that. When he came to my house on the Shabbos, he always wanted to be pushed into the pool.
No,
Because if you push into the pool, it's not your fault.
Please push me. Please push me.
Never stand on the ground.
Okay, so that's not the case. Then another interesting thing, I'm not so familiar because I'm not in charge, but when it comes to girls and their hair, apparently, don't know if it's shearing. I know my girls have this thing that if it's braided, you basically can't undo the braids on Shabbos.
I thought you couldn't plait on Shabbos.
Sorry, you can't plait on Shabbos either. Correct. But that's not. I don't think it's shearing. Knotting. That's right. It's a different prohibition to shearing. Right. Exactly. No. So actually, what they do is that they take out the. Braids. Exactly. Okay, let's just see what we can do a little bit more here. Now, so that's why the third paragraph says, I'll tell you how to fix this up, the problem. And for those of you on my phone or watching YouTube, the battery's about to die. Apologies that we're going to have to cut it short at this point. It'll cut. I need a charger long enough. So leave it. Okay, so let's go to the next one. But Amar, this is the answer. Change your wording. V'chein lekorcha shtayim. If you add in the word v'chein means and similarly and also. So now you're not excluding the first case of the snippers, right? Of the scissors tipful of the scissors. You're actually adding on. in addition to the scissors, when it comes to the bald spot of the korcha, it's referring to 2 hairs. That small word of v'chein implies that in actual fact, the first paragraph was also talking about 2 hairs. So when it talks about scissors, cutting scissors, it's 2 hairs.